Everyone, Mark Edwards here with our Director of Scouting, Jérôme Bérubé. We're going to do a quick little chat today about our recently released November 2026 NHL Draft ranking. Jérôme, how are you?
I'm doing well, Mark. How are you?
I'm good. I am unfortunately at home and not out west or making my way back from out west. My most recent immunotherapy lined up absolutely terribly right with those two games. So I couldn't go out there. But you know what? Real quickly, just have a quick little chat about that before we get into our list. Didn't miss much. That was pretty awful games. What do you think?
Yeah, not exactly a too awesome game to watch. I think it was pretty obvious. Like you and I did talk about this off air, but like the the lack of impact players on the team CHL was pretty obvious. Last year you had like Schaefer who put on a show on game one. Like there was none of that this year, and obviously there's no Schaefer in this draft, but no players really made you know a big impact for me from Team CHL, and I think that's a big reason why they didn't win the series this year. There's a lack of impactful CHL player, and obviously we're going to talk about two players that could have been impact player in this series, but they are playing in the NCAA this year. So that's I think one of the big reasons why the team CHL didn't do too well this week.
Yeah, just quick glance at our list. Our top four players, none were in this game. So
yeah,
right there, that's going to hurt things. And then there's some players that we would probably argue we wouldn't have had in the game, and had a few others mixed in. Not too many, but a few.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get going here. We'll just go to the top of our list. So if you're out there and you haven't seen our list, you can go to hockeyprospect.com. It'll jump right at you in the face. You can check out our top 32. And then for members, if you want to join and help us out, become a member, there's a top 64 there that expands obviously past the top 32. So number one on our list is Keaton Verhoff, big, huge right D man, pushing 6'4", 208, playing in North Dakota as a freshman. He has had a very good start to his season as a freshman defenseman. He's getting some points, playing hard, competing hard, and really he's just got those traits that Jérôme, NHL teams would want to build around as you start to rebuild the franchise, picking first overall.
Yeah, I mean, 6'4" D, right D. We all know how important those right defensemen are. Bomb of a shot from the point, so you can be a PP1 defenseman in the future. He's very physical in his own zone. So there's a lot to like here. It's also he's quite young for this class. He's not going to turn 18 until I think June. So he's going to play at 17 all year long at North Dakota, and he's making good stride. Like every week with his team, he's getting better and better. And obviously the upside is very NHL teams are all excited about what he could be when he's in his 20s. There's a lot to like here, and capable of playing a lot of big minutes. Offensively, but also defensively. So there's a lot to like here with this player, and it's a funny story, but it's also pretty interesting that he was a goalie in his youth. So I think he said he was a goalie until he was 11 years old. So he's only been a full-time defenseman since he was 11 or 12. So I've never heard of anything like that before with like a top end prospect. So he's definitely a really good athlete. Like the fact that he can play like he played two position growing up, and now obviously he's a full-time defenseman. But this is very interesting, and you might I guess as a scout, you're trying to project those guys when they're in their 20s. I mean, how much better is he going to get with 2, 3, 4, 5 more years of learning the position and just getting better? I think that's a pretty exciting things to follow with Verhoff.
Yeah, one of the things that jumped out for me every time I watch him is the shot. You mentioned the shot. It's the ability to get it through, and I mean he just scores goals. To put it bluntly, the ability to have a guy with this size, competitiveness, who actually has a chance to score 20 goals from your back end, it's pretty appetizing for teams. So that's one of the things that just makes him a bit of a difference maker compared to some past years where there's some D near the top, but probably not the type of D that have scored along the lines that he has. I think that he finds the shooting lanes, he makes lanes. He's just got a knack for getting that puck through, and then the shot is hard and it is accurate. So just a couple of things that stand out for him. It's early, but on the first list here, he is looking like a player that a team can build their franchise around, which is what you're looking for when you're picking first overall. Going to move on to our ranked player. It's Ivar Stenberg. Little Swede. I say little. I mean, he's listed at 5'11", 183. Not sure he's that, but we'll find out towards the end of the year if it's accurate or not. But really super skilled, jitterbug kind of player. Really shifty, talented. I thought coming into the year that the skating would be the thing that would hold him back, and it's still not a huge strength. But I'm not sure it's quite as weak as I thought it was, Jérôme, when we were talking about him this summer. And for me, it was one of the reasons that we could push him up to this number 2 hole, because I think the skating's come along a little bit. And then you've got the high-end playmaking ability. I mean, you sit and have an argument, what's his better trait, the playmaking or his goal scoring? If you put on his tape and just watch his goals and assists, I mean, you just sit there and you want to hit rewind and play it all over again. It's so impressive and fun to watch. Your quick thoughts on Stenberg, our number 2 guy?
Yeah, I mean, I think, when we did the rankings, obviously we compare him to McKenna because they're both wingers. They're both similar size. They're both not like amazing skater. But like one thing we mentioned, and Brad was also with us when we discussed that, was Stenberg gets the most out of his skating, and it's like very opposite of what McKenna is doing. And also, if you look at his pace, his play away from the puck, it's all really good, and those are a bit the weakness with McKenna, how he uses skating, his pace, his play away from the puck, his effort level. So basically, I think one of the reasons we have him number 2 ahead of McKenna is just there's no question mark with him. Like the only question mark we had at the start of the year was the skating, and we're good with it now. So doesn't mean McKenna cannot come back and take back that number 2 spot from him at some point this year, but there's a lot of work to do for him. But Stenberg has been remarkable this season. He has left us with no choice of more, putting him at that spot. He's having, I think it's stats wise, it's like the most successful draft season by a draft eligible player in the SHL. Like we were like the president of Leo Carlson's fan club back in 2023. Like of all the lists out there, we're like the only one who had him number 2 over Fantilli. And stats wise, it's not even close. Stenberg will will probably be a point per game player by the end of the year in the SHL. Like he's top 10 in scoring, I believe, at this point. This was not the case with Carlson. It was more was a lot of projection with Carlson, but the right now Stenberg version is quite good. So he when you take all of those things in consideration, like at the end he was, I don't want to say an easy pick at number 2, but almost an easy pick at number 2 for us.
Yeah, and we talk about the skating. It's kind of talked about it all just because of his size. I mean, Verhoff skating is far from elite, but we don't talk about as much when they're bigger players. So it comes into more of like, how many times have you heard me say, the small and bad skating, small bad skating, small bad skating. I mean, I've said that how many times over the last decade, right? It's a big red flag for us, and obviously for NHL teams as well. But like I said, I really think the skating's come up enough where it really alleviated my biggest concern with him. And then when you compare the rest of his game to McKenna, there's similar talents. I think he's the better goal scorer too. And then he competes so much harder. So that probably is a good spot to transition into McKenna. And I'll let you go first here this time with McKenna. Our third overall player, the player that came into the season as the consensus number 1. I'm sure number 1 on many, if not all lists here. But our number 3 player, an elite playmaker, he would get the old 9 rating in our 3 to 9 scale. But your quick take on McKenna.
Yeah, it just has not been like I don't think anybody expected like this type of season from him so far. It's not like he's a point per game player at 17. It's good. Like you can't really complain about that. It's how he gets his points that's been a bit of the issue. I think out of 15 points, I think he's got only 4 5-on-5 points, which is pretty telling. And then when you watch him, there's a lot of like he needs a bit more time, a bit more space on the ice, which he gets on the power play. That's why he's able to create some pretty magical stuff on the power play. It's just the 5-on-5 play has been a bit of a disappointing, I would say. And as I mentioned before, like he needs to create more with his skating. I feel like he does like to slow down the play, but we need a bit more urgency in his game. We know he's got really good hands. The playmaking is elite, but we need more. Basically, you look at Stenberg. Stenberg is doing all type of stuff, and we think Stenberg's probably translate as a better goal scorer than McKenna. And the playmaking, I would still give the edge to McKenna, but Stenberg is a really, really good playmaker too. But Stenberg can do those things at 5-on-5, and McKenna has not shown that yet. So, and then you talk about the complete game, like it's not even close at this point. The complete game between those two. So, but yeah, it's been a bit of a difficult season so far for him. Like, yeah, if you don't watch the games and only watch the stats, you're like, well, he's a point per game player. Like, what are you guys talking about? But if you actually really watch the game, there's some, if you're gonna go first overall, you're gonna be the standards are really high, right? And he's not meeting those standards right now. So listen, World Junior is coming up. He's got a second half of the season also coming up. So let's wait and see. But so far, it's been a bit of a letdown, I think, for McKenna.
Yeah, I said on radio the other day, just after we released our list, I first noticed this during World Junior last year, just the play away from the puck and effort level. Obviously, he's a player for this year's draft. I didn't have a whole lot of reason to turn on a ton of games to watch him last year. So just starting fresh this year with him, I was kind of just, looking for that right away to see where he was at with the compete. And I'm talking about, willingness to engage, battle on the walls, win his own pucks, go into some dirty areas, and even just something as simple as back checking. I mean, we're seeing him, literally lollygagging back into his own zone. It's not a good look. It's easy to change, but as much as I say it's easy to change, said that for a lot of players over the years and just thought, they can burn us if they just flick a switch and decide to start competing harder. But over the years, it hasn't happened a lot. So this is a pretty special player and a lot of traits in his game. But for us anyway, there's some things to fix here, and it'll be interesting going forward. For me, I'm really interested to see what happens at World Junior with Dale Hunter coaching him for a month, because Dale will want everybody to be playing solid defensive hockey. So that'll get interesting to see if that kind of gives him a spark into doing that. We saw that with Jamie Drysdale, played very good at World Junior after kind of being lackadaisical with the Erie Otters. And then he went off to World Junior and picked it up a notch, because basically if you don't pick it up a notch, you might not get on the ice. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I think we'll leave it there for McKenna, but that's the top three explanation. Go just on a couple other players here, or go through a little quicker, Jerome. Tynan Lawrence just returned. We're recording, what day is it? Thursday afternoon. So he just came back last night. You tweeted out. He's our 4th overall player, Muskegon. This is the guy that I couldn't wait to watch this year and thought could be the guy to challenge, at least be one of the guys to challenge McKenna at number 1. I called him kind of Celebrini light a couple weeks ago to a scout. And then our scout, Brad Allen, mentioned that in our meeting last week. He said, I think he called him Celebrini 0.7 or something like that. Brad came up with some way to put it. But he does have that complete game that you loved from Celebrini, like who was the easiest number 1 ever almost. And Lawrence has that complete game. I call it the game that, as a former coach, the coaches love. You just know you can trust them in all situations. There's another guy like that in this draft, Caleb Malhotra, who's down our list at 13. But Lawrence just has that trustworthiness for coaches, and coaches just love having the guy that's almost like an extra coach on the bench. They just know the systems inside out. They execute what the coach wants and play complete game. So although we haven't seen a lot of him, because he had played about 2 games and just came back last night, which is why we left him at number 4. There just wasn't enough reason to move him up or down. Tynan Lawrence sits 4th, and I'll let you just chime in here too on him.
Yeah, I mean, I thought about that Celebrini comp like in August at Delinka. I did say that to one of our scout, Chris, or USA scout. I was like, this is a lot of Celebrini in this game. I just don't know about the upside offensively. Is anywhere near Celebrini, but the play away from the puck, the compete level, the smarts, like it's all there. The skating, it's all there. So yeah, it's been frustrating not having him, playing games so far this season, because you can make a case he could be ahead of McKenna in our list if the Lawrence version of the Alinka was the Lawrence version that we saw all year in the USHL. I think you could make a case that he would be ahead of McKenna based on what we have seen of McKenna so far. But that's not a conversation we have because he has not really played, so we don't know yet. Really like this player, and the fact that he's a center. There's not many center in this class, like Malhotra, and then as far as like top 6 center, like we could talk about Malhotra later, but it's still a debate whether he's a 2C or 3C. But after that, how many 2C are we gonna find in this draft? So if things go well for Lawrence in the second half of the season, I don't think he's gonna wait too long to get drafted. So yeah, I'm a big fan of this player. It's funny. We have a few guys like that this year where the younger brother is actually much better than their older brother. Like I remember His older brother in the queue, I was really not a fan, and there's a few other guys on the list where, like Oscar Hemming, much better than his older brother, and there's a few other guys like that too. So that's kind of funny to me, but yeah, Lawrence is hopefully he stays healthy, but he's a rock solid prospect for this class.
We'll go on to our fifth player, Chase Reed, defenseman from the Sioux Greyhounds, who joined the team last year. And of all places, he was playing in the North American Hockey League, not even in the USHL, and jumped in and really became the second best player on the team immediately behind Brady Martin, and made a splash. And now he's off to a good start here with the Sioux this year. I don't think he's kind of up with some of the other greats. I mean, he's not in that Schaefer category. And I mean, I'm going to throw Schaefer name here because he's fresh from last year, but no, there's not going to be another Schaefer for a while here. So it's kind of a bad name to throw out as a reference, but he's got a few more warts to his game. I think there's some decision making here and there that can get a little bit iffy, but physically, the physical traits, the way he plays the game, he drives play, gets involved, he wants the puck, and he makes a difference. Last year, I remember you pointing out he just happened to hit the 24 game mark, I think, and you remember you sent me a message that I think he had the same amount of points as Schaefer did after 24 games when Schaefer went out injured. So that was kind of interesting last year. But your quick thoughts on what you've seen out of Reed this year?
Yeah, I mean, watching him this year it's fun, but it's long because he plays a lot of minutes.
Yeah.
Usually like 30 minutes easily per night.
Too many minutes, I think.
PK. Yeah, and I think it does affect some of his game and efficiency at times. I remember early on in the season he was really physical in the early games that I saw, and then as the season went on, he's a bit less physical. Maybe a less energy in his game, and I think playing that much is probably a big factor. And he probably never played that as much minutes as this at this level of play. You mentioned the USHL, like he was cut from his USHL team, right? He was cut from the US team for the Olinka last year. He was cut from the US team from the U18 last year. So it's not like this like high-end prospect that everyone knew about. This is a bit of maybe a late bloomer type of situation, or so. But he's been good with the Sioux. My first impression of him was he's a bit like a Noah Dobson version, but maybe not as smart as Dobson, but with a bit more urgency and physicality in his game. So, yeah. So he's a good one. I don't know if he's your classic number 5 on our list. I feel like in a better draft, he would be farther down our list. So yeah, Chase Reed at number 5. In a better draft, he's probably a bit lower, but we still like the player, and let's see how he does in the coming months. If he sticks at number 5, or maybe he'll drop a bit. Who knows?
Yeah, I definitely feel like there was a gap between 4 and 5. A new grouping starts. I said to Brad, I think the morning before we released the rankings, it kind of feels like it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and then maybe it should go like 7, 8, 9, or 8, 9, 10. The guys in that little gap there are a little bit behind. Although not for you. The next guy on the list is Albert Smith. So you had number 2 on your list. So I'll let you talk first about Albert's.
Yeah, I mean he's quite the story. 2 years ago he was not even considered like a serious prospect for the NHL. Even just at the start of last year, he was playing in the Finland U18 league, and then in the same year he went from that league to the U20 league to the Liga. And then this year, he's a full-time Liga player, one of the better defensemen in the league. Very strong chance he will play for Latvia at the Olympics. He just made his national team debut 2 weeks ago, I think. So there's a lot to like with this player. He's very chaotic, very good skating defenseman, very good skills. You know, I had him, quite high, but I do admit that there's a bit of a risk with him, with some of his reads and um, with his decision making at time. But you know, if you look at where he was 2 years ago to now, this is like a phenomenal progression for a player. And let's wait and see. If he can improve some of those reads in his own zone and defensively. When he played for the national team, that we saw some of those mistakes were a bit like more visible at that level of play. So, but he's really fun. He's one of the most entertaining player in the draft class. So there's a lot to like with this player. He's just physically, he's very strong. In the league, he doesn't lose a lot of one-on-one battles. If you watch the right game with that player, like you might think he's number one. You might think he's better than Verhoff, but there's other games where you see he's a bit more mistake prone than. Well, I mean, Verhoff does make his fair share of mistakes too. So
yeah,
I would say.
Verhoff. When I was telling a scout that it looked like Verhoff would probably be our number one overall, he said he told me that Verhoff and Jackson Smith lead the NCAA in turnovers, which the Jackson Smith part of that equation didn't shock me too much, and a little bit of the Verhoff because I think he's just trying to do it. Most of Verhoff's are he's just trying to do too much at times.
Mm-hmm.
So it's. I don't mind that as much when those turnovers are coming because I'd rather have the player try and do that than sit back and be passive and not do that at all. I mean, this is where they're developing. This is the time when you've got to do that. That's the way to get better, right? Do things that are going to make you better, and that's how you develop. So it doesn't really concern me too much for Verhoff about that, but it is, he's far from the perfect prospect either here. I'll transition here to me quickly touching on Smits. He's a really fun watch. Kind of reminded me a little bit, if we said Lawrence was, Celebrini light, and it's light because just not quite as good in any area, any one area. It's kind of similar for Smits and Schaefer. And the parts that really reminded me of Schaefer were just him wanting the puck and how much he touched the puck in one shift. If you watched Schaefer last year, he had the puck so much. Every single shift, it was like he drove play and just dominated shifts touching the puck. And there's a little bit of that with Smits. He's on pucks quick. He wants the puck. He wins battles, and he has the puck quite a bit. But skating's not quite as good. The offensive ability is not quite as good. But nevertheless, a fun player to watch and a guy who's kind of burst onto the scene here. Second on your list, and Brad and I had him in the 6 hole, so I left him there at 6 for this month because there's plenty of time ahead. But yeah, really impressive player and a fun player to watch. Move on real quick to a guy who hasn't basically even played, Oscar Hemming, just to say that hopefully he's going to join an NCAA team or something in the new year. World Junior ahead, of course. But an impressive player, Jérôme, that we just kind of kept in our 7 hole here to be announced, to be determined on what we'll do with him going forward. Obviously, if we're in June and he hasn't played yet, might be a little tough to keep him in the 7 hole. But for now, it was easy to just leave him alone there. And then Belchetz in Windsor in our 8th spot. This, just coming off these two prospect games, I didn't think he was very good. I like this player because when he's on, he is really impressive. But I just wish he was on more. His at his best a little more often. We've got another player, Rubric, in Niagara, down in the 30s, who has tons of talent, but just doesn't bring it. I mean, there's just games where you can't even find them. And every once in a while, I would say Belchetz is not a game. It's maybe a couple shifts where there's a little bit of that, where it's kind of like, well, that was a nothing shift. You know, he mailed that one in. Your quick thoughts on Belchetz, and then we'll wrap this up.
Well, I'll start with Emming. Just a quick note on Emming.
Yeah. Okay.
So obviously, we only saw him at the Olympia this season. He was awesome there. Looked like very easy top 10 pick for me at that tournament with his size, his compete level, his hockey sense. He has a good shot, not as good as his brother, but everything else is much better than his brother, including the compete, which is very, very, very important. So he's very, very fun player to watch. So that's we've been like I'm about to start like a hashtag on Twitter, like free Oscar Hemming, because that kid needs to play. So hopefully, the latest news was maybe he was gonna attempt to play college hockey after Christmas. So I mean, anything at this point would be good for us and for him. So like he needs to play. Belchetz, as you mentioned, like if you watch him on a good game, you think he's a top 3 pick in this class. And if you watch him on a bad games, and there's been more bad games than good one, you think he's, the danger of being a bust is right there. And the 2 games this week didn't really help his cause, to be honest. So there's a lot of tools there with that player, with his size. He can shoot a puck. I think his playmaking is a bit underrated, but just consistency in his game is not there from game to game, and the compete is not always there also, which has been it's been a bit of the issue with this player. So yeah, it's gonna be, he's a tough one to really get a great read on, because like there's a big difference between the good and the bad games for
the ceiling is so high, right? He's a monstrous player with really good skill. I mean, it's not just like okay skill. He's got great skill.
Yeah.
So the ceiling is so high, but he's playing kind of to a little bit of a lower floor at times, just with effort level. And just a reminder to people, kind of instruct all our guys to kind of in order: hockey sense, compete, skill, skating, in that order. So there's all kinds of subcategories under those 4 main headings: hockey sense, compete, skill, skating. But that's the order that we kind of prioritize. So we want smart players who are competitive in skill, very close in order of what we would prioritize. But in this case, we've always kept compete ahead. So hockey sense, compete, skill, and then skating obviously is important. But as we've seen in the NHL, there are some players where skating is far from their best asset. Ryan O'Reilly comes always is my example I use, going way back with him. So that's kind of where we're at here as a quick look. We'll talk about some other players, and I know Jérôme and Brad will probably, in their scouting sessions podcast, talk about a few guys maybe Brad wants to chime in on as well. But just a quick look at the top of our list, maybe a little bit more of an explanation of the why it's shaken out this way. It's a November list. There is tons of hockey ahead, far from the final list. But this is kind of our first data point for us to work off of. The next one that we release, usually the end of January, or I think last year we might have touched the beginning of February. That's the one where we really hone in the rest of the year to just trying to watch those players that are really in that top 64 of the next list. Because you get past 64 on an NHL team list, and sometimes you've completed your draft, or you're not going too much further. These weaker drafts we've seen recently, Jérôme, teams are going a lot deeper on their list, and we've seen it with our own list. If we were kind of participating as the 33rd team, we were going way past our 64th best player in drafts. But that can kind of be strength of draft related, right? Where the weaker draft, all the teams have similar names in that top grouping of top 60, we'll call it. So they go off the board faster, and then you're going deeper in your list. I mean, I know, again, last year teams were literally calling. Everybody was trying to trade their late picks and picking players they didn't even have on their list. So it's just
that's the signal when you see all the teams trading their 6th-round picks, 7th-round picks because they don't have any guys left on their list. And
you could see it just by some of the names coming off late. I'm not going to say any of the names, but just some of the names that were coming off late in the draft, the teams were scrambling. Yeah. Anyway, I think we'll call it a day there. If we release this today, happy Thanksgiving to our American friends. I am going to go throw on some NFL football after this, and probably will release this tonight. It's Thursday here, and we will see you sometime soon. I know we'll see Jérôme and Brad, who do a lot more YouTube than I do, and they'll continue. I think, Jérôme, you and Brad mentioned you wanted to do another goalie.
That's possible.
So there'll be a goalie, probably specific one, and then I know Brad will want to chime in on a few players here. So there'll be a few more players off this list here, and then we'll get up some insider audio as well. Thanks to all our members, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Bye, guys.